as well as. So we can go ahead and jump right in. Does anybody have any questions from last time? Anything that they want to go over? Has anybody, maybe more importantly, has anybody brought up any of these new changes to the carriers to give them a heads up that, this is coming, this is what stuff's going to start looking like here, and to be prepared for it going forward? Because I think the sooner that they know what things are going to start looking like, the better. We don't want them to be seeing this stuff for the first time on go live night. That just probably will cause some confusion and anxiety on their part. We don't want that. Smooth transitions.
Yeah, Theron, right now I'd probably describe us as a few contractors know we're in the process of changing, but we haven't rolled out anything to contractors.
Okay. If I could suggest something, I guess, maybe roll it out, maybe show a few contractors at a time. It doesn't have to necessarily be the whole plant all at once. Like when we were in Phoenix, there were a handful of contractors that picked up the changes really, really quickly. And what they actually started doing was helping the other contractors out to, organize themselves and be like, all right, this is what you're looking at here. This is what things do. I think they responded to that maybe a little better than, coming to me and me telling them and trying to show them, because they've only met me for maybe a few hours or maybe a day. But the other contractors, they've interacted with at least a few times. So maybe coming from a familiar face, they're more receptive to it. That's kind of just an idea, throwing it out there. But it's good, maybe just a few at a time. That's cool. Like I said, just the night before, we don't want to be like, oh, hey, we're changing things over on you guys. Sorry, heads up on that one.
Okay, I mean, we can commit, before the next meeting that we'll grab some of our more engaged contractors and, have them start looking at DART. And we'll give you a little feedback by next Wednesday's meeting.
Theron, do we have a handout that we can provide to Rochester that introduces DART and provides the URL and such?
I don't think I have any documentation on that. I can put it together, though. Okay. I can put together a packet. Sorry?
No, that would be very helpful.
Okay. Do you guys want it at a contractor level? Because they're not going to be seeing all of this fun stuff. I can put it together with screenshots of, their portal and mobile app, what they're going to be seeing, what they can do within it, if that would be helpful.
That's exactly right. That would be terrific.
Okay. Yeah, I'll get started on that today or sometime this week, and hopefully have it finished by Friday, maybe get it sent out on Monday. I'll just write that down for myself. Okay. Cool. That's good to hear. All right. So today's meeting, like I said, we're going to go over the route management side of things, the DSP portal and mobile, what they're going to be, the carriers are actually going to be able to go in and look at. Up until this point, I've pretty much showed you guys how to go in, analyze things, pull reports for the carriers if they need that. But today, we're really going to get into kind of the meat of it and your day-to-day operations. If you need to react to late trucks, for instance, a carrier needs help resequencing their routes, more stuff that I think you'll be able to get in and play around with, and really do some stuff here. All right, so to start, we'll go over route management. To get there, Come over to this hamburger menu again, top left, and we'll go to the route management. We'll start by looking at the late truck option. This is obviously for late trucks. If trucks running behind, some carriers are being missed, they got to get out the door. They're itching to go, deliver their routes, and they're not, and the truck is too late for them to pick up their publications. We can come into this list and move basically those products that they're missing to another day, the next day, or whatever, whenever you'd like those to be redelivered. So in order to do that, we come to this late trucking menu here. To start, we're going to select our dates. This is the select from delivery date. So this is the date that the late truck came in on. And we can come down here, you can see that it ends with today's date, 13th, and it goes back about a week here. So we'll say today a late truck came in, a few carriers were missed, and we need to move those products over to tomorrow's date. So we can come over, pick today. Our process here, we only got the final, but that's probably what you're going to be wanting to pick, the final report to run off of. So that's fine that that's selected for us. Our delivery date is the date that we're going to want those products to be moved to. In this case, we can set it from the 14th all the way to the 21st. We'll go ahead and say that the late truck that came in today, we're going to want to move that redelivery over to tomorrow. I'm going to select tomorrow's date. Now we can select our routes that we want, that we need to be redelivered for those products. So it already has selected all of the routes, right? Something to pay attention to. So right now, this looks like every route in your plant was missed. Right, so if we want to exclude those for whatever reason, let's say there was only 3 routes that weren't able to get this truck. So what we could do is select, we'll go here. Start there. We could scroll all the way down to the bottom, highlight all the routes, and move them over to the excluded routes. Right? You can also go in and just move over one by one, or you could do a bulk move over, whatever the case is in your situation. But right now, these 4 routes are going to be selected for the redelivery for tomorrow's date. So once we have the routes over that we want, we're going to move the products now. Perhaps they missed everything, in which case we're going to select all the products and move them over to the selected products placement. Now, for example, let's just say that these 4 routes missed this FJ product, right? We can move everything else over to the excluded portion. Now we've got today was missed, basing off our final report. It's going to be redelivered tomorrow. These 4 routes were missed, so they need the product to be redelivered on their sheet tomorrow. And they need that FJ product. Now what we could do is schedule the rerun or clear information if for whatever reason we messed up and want to start over, we can go ahead and do that. But I'm going to go ahead and click schedule rerun. And let it do its thinking here. So right now it's just moving that FJ, those totals over for that would be today, onto tomorrow's report list for the routes that we have selected. All right. You get a pop-up here that says it's been created successfully. Now if we drop down, we can see that the routes that we had selected are down here. It looks like these three routes. That one might have been a different production route. This is just the test demo, so it brought down these three routes. You can see in Plant 3000, the plant I'm working with, our product that we need redelivered, the date it's going to be redelivered, and the total number of accounts for FJ on that route. Okay, so tomorrow when it comes in and the carrier comes in that were missed, they get their reports. You know, these extra copies for the accounts will be on those reports. Okay. Any questions about this? Again, date missed, date redelivered. You pick your route that you need, pick your products you need, schedule it, and you get a nice little summary down here at the bottom.
How does the address or the product show up the next day on the route list? So like, will the address show up twice?
I believe that should be the product. On the route reports, there's, you know, you've got the product description, so FJ will be on there. There should be a message on there saying that the FJ was missed yesterday and redelivery for today, or in this case, the 14th.
Yeah, the address will be on there once, Jim, but there will be a parenthetical. It'll list the two products and the one product referring to the prior day.
Okay.
This is a really powerful tool that I wish we had at our other sites.
And then you can see the functionality of it's pretty easy. I mean, you're only clicking in a couple places, and once you got everything in, it was pretty quick just to pull up your data. Okay. So that's covering late truck. Come back down to this dispatching section. But before we get into that, I'm actually going to skip ahead a little bit and come down to Route Viewer, and I'll explain why. They kind of link together pretty nicely here. Okay. The Route Viewer, we can come in and based on different parameters that we're going to be setting up for ourselves, we can check out the placement of a route on a little Google map here, right? We can actually see each account or each address represented by dots. Each dot will be color coded, so you can check out, you know, what route is where. And depending on your needs, this is a good tool to come in and check out, get a good idea of what the route looks like if you don't know already. So to show you what I mean, what we're going to do is come over and start by clicking on Settings here. Now we're going to start filling in some of our parameters. Our process ID, again, going to be basing it off of the final. Boundary, this is going to show you the extent of the plant, in this case, Plant 3000. I could show you what I mean by that. Right, so down here in the map, see if I can move that over a little bit. So for Plant 3000, this is the boundary of the routes within the plant. You can see that it's filled in with a orange filler there. might not be the best view once you start plugging in your routes, but just wanted to show you that you do have the option here. But I think, in my personal opinion, it's a little clearer to do our route viewer without that boundary in there. Just because I like to see the dots, I don't really want to see the orange filler at the moment. So we have a couple ways that we can look up the routes. You can look it up by route individually. You can look up the routes or the addresses or accounts within the zip code. Or you could look up by product. All right, so I'll show you what I mean. Go ahead and start clicking route. On the left-hand side, you can see that we now have the option to go in, select one, select a few, select a whole bunch of different routes that we want to look at. So as an example, I'll select that one and come down so we can see a whole bunch of different routes. Once I've got those selected, I can go ahead and click show. And now we can see that the routes are plotted on our map here. We can see each route has its own different colored dot, and each dot represents an address or the account for that route. This is a good way of coming in and showing, okay, what routes are pretty close together if one needs to be redelivered. So for instance, maybe down here, these routes are pretty jumbled together. Maybe we want to do some consolidation, but let's say for whatever reason, the person covering the green route didn't show up today, sick, on vacation, whatnot. Maybe we want this guy, the guy delivering the silver route to take over and deliver this guy's papers for the day. So you could kind of come in, check out, get a layout of your of the routes for your plant. Clicking on the individual dot will bring up some address information and maybe a little bit of account information, just kind of giving you a quick little snapshot of what you're looking at. So you got your address, the route that it's on, total number of draw for that account there, and the total active account as well. All right, and you can select multiple there. Or just look at one at a time. Okay, so this tool, you can, again, come over here and based off your needs, select multiple routes, select one at a time, but it's a good way to give you a general idea of what you're looking at here and what you're dealing with. Okay, we can also look it up by zip code. So I'll go ahead and just select, maybe we'll just select two zip codes, click show. They should give us pretty much a similar view, although this time now the accounts are based in zip codes. So this is zip code 1, zip code 2 over here. They could be on different routes, but because we're in a zip code view, we just see the two. So for example, if we were in a route view, we could be seeing red, blue, green, whatnot in here. Same with this, just see a bunch of different colors, but for zip code, we only have 2 selected, so we get 2 colors. Come back to settings. We can check it out by product. So again, I'll select a few here and go for show. And this time we have a product view. Maybe these two weren't great examples for the moment, kind of difficult to tell, but we got a few blue dots strewn about, a couple black ones as well. So based on your need and based on how you want to see the routes, you have some different options there. Right. You can also look it up by address, which if you do, you'll see the one specific dot for that address you wanted to look up. So I'll just pick one here as an example. Right. So coming over here, I'll just put that in. I can go ahead and click search, which should bring up my singular address here and account. Okay. And we can pull it back, see where that is. Tulsa. But you could check out the functionality of that. And again, depending on your needs, one view might work better than another. But route specifically is a good way of checking things out and checking out your boundaries there. So I bring this up because we'll go over dispatching. So for example, carrier doesn't show up, they're sick, car broke down, whatnot, and you need to get that route redelivered. We'll go ahead, close out of this viewer, come over to dispatching. Okay. So we should all be in the dispatching screen here. We could see that we have a couple different options of what we can do, and that's just what we want to do. Right now, we can split up a route into however many segments we want. Again, carrier's down, he's unable to deliver the route for whatever reason. You got a couple carriers in there that say that they can redeliver for him. They're in the same area, everything works out. You went to your route viewer, you know that they can deliver the papers, and it makes sense for them to deliver the papers. So what you can do is come over here and split a route into between 2 and 9. Right. So in this example, we'll just split it into 2. We could come over and select the route that we want to split. So for this example, we'll just pick this 2100 one. The publications we can come over and select as well. Most likely, if they're not going to show up at all, you're probably going to just want to select all the products here. But you can select individual ones if you want by clicking, holding down Control, selecting however many you need. But again, if they're down, you're probably going to just want to select all. Okay. Now we can come over and select the reports that we want to generate for it. So we know that the guys who are covering the route, they like 2-column route books. We can come over there and select that. Again, you can select multiple different reports for them to work off of. But in this case, you just want to get them out the door, so probably one works best. So select 2-column route books for these guys. Solution label is kind of just going to be a description for yourself, so you know why you're rerunning this report for these guys. So for example, I'll say to no show, or you could say that route split. It's just for you, so you can check out, and when you go back and look at it, and you're not like, oh, why did I split this route up? I don't really remember. At this point, we could go ahead and submit the request. And this is going to be, in the first training session we did, we went over how to select the reporting preferences. Some people want to see just the product. Some people don't want to see the turn-by-turn directions. And you can go in, and the carriers can go in and make those changes in their preferences themselves. So depending on how they want to view it, you can click within this run section and basically copy over the preferences for one of these routes. So we'll say that, what do you want to say? This guy right here is one of your guys that's going to be redelivering the papers for that down route. If we select him, right now the preferences are going to be based off of what this guy has set. If that works for us, then that's great. We can go ahead and click confirm. We'll get a pop-up saying that the dispatching job was submitted successfully. Right? And at this point, we want to get that report that we just created. We just split up. In order to do that, we're going to stay within this screen, but come up to dispatching scenarios. And here, we should see the scenario that we just created for ourselves. We can see that the type we selected was a split. Here is that little message, that label that we created for ourselves, right? We got the route, a little bit of description, the date it was created, and the status. So right now it's pending. The program is thinking about how best to split up this route based on delivery time and distance. What it's going to do is try to split it up as evenly as possible. So if the regular time it takes an hour to deliver, one guy doesn't get stuck delivering for 15 minutes and the other guy gets delivered for 45. Right? It's going to try to evenly split as much as possible how many accounts they have to handle and how long it thinks it's going to take to deliver those. So at this point, since it's pending, we can click refresh. We'll just wait for it to, there we go. Now it's available. Now we can go in and get the reports that we need. To do that, we're going to select the scenario we want to work with, which should pop up our routes that we've split up. So route 1, route 2, and now we can get a summary of them. So for route 1, we can come over, print out the route book, all of that. Or if we want to do it at the same time, we can select both. Click our two column route book, and get reports. Okay, so show you what I mean. Got route 1 selected, a route book selected, or whatever reports that we wanted to get. I'll go ahead and click get reports, which just like in the production section, if you guys remember, pop up the report here. I'll just say open. Now we've got our route. If you go through, it looks exactly the same, but Dart slipped in the split that this guy has to now deliver. Okay. If we want to get a little bit of a summary of the route, we can go down to summary reports. Click route summary report. Get reports. And this should show us, how the route has been split up. Okay, so we can see route 1, total time it should take is about 43 minutes. Distance about 14 miles, almost 15 covered. Route 2, you see that total time is pretty dang close, right? Location count might be a little bit off, and maybe the distance is off by a few miles, but for the most part, it tries to get it down to a 50-50 split. And the functionality of this is really, you got to get these guys out the door and get these papers delivered. So you don't really have time to go in and play around with it, getting, I want to get the location count closer, the total distance closer. You don't really have that luxury at that time when you got it down route. That's how to generate the reports. Now you want to make sure that these guys who are delivering the route get paid for it, right? And to do that, we're going to come down to this route assignments page. Now, whoever is delivering route 1, we have to assign the route. So let's say that this guy is delivering route 1, and this guy is delivering route 2. Just pick 2 random ones. Now, this route will get paid for route 1. This route will get paid for route 2. Obviously, we have to click assign, and then compensation should take care of itself. There we go. We got a pop-up saying the request was successful. So now everything's good. Our status has been assigned. We've worked with it. Everything's good to go. Okay, but that route assignment piece is pretty important if you want the guys to get paid.
Hey, just a quick question going back to the split. Can you, instead of doing a 50-50 split, can you do like a 60-40 split or a 70-30 split on the route?
Right. So again, this is kind of just middle. It's sprung on you that the carrier isn't coming in. You don't really have the time to go in and try to make that 60-40 split. Unless you have time, in which case we'll get into it a little bit later, how to move individual routes or individual addresses and accounts themselves. But this tool is mostly used to, all right, I need to get these guys their paperwork quick, and I need to get this done. So this tool isn't, this section of it isn't the best way to do that 60-40 split. Okay. All right, so that's how to do split. Good question, though. We have other different options here as well. We can go ahead and recreate my routes. Now, if any changes were made, any sequencing changes, we can go ahead and click the recreate my routes, select the route that we need. Again, most likely going to be all products and the reports that you want to see. Let's say this guy's gone in and done some work resequencing his route. He needs it for today. Go in, select him, select the reports that he wants to get. Again, create another little label for ourselves so we could say recreate this route number here. Submitting requests. Going back to the dispatching scenarios, we should see a new line down here saying, you know, dispatch type will be recreate, description is whatever that label you've created. Again, your date and the status, either pending, active, or assigned. Okay, you can resequence your route as well. Again, similar functions in this case, picking the route, publications, and the reports. You can combine a route or a few routes just for the day. And again, this should reset after the day is done. So once this is done, you know, the route that we split will go back to being the regular route tomorrow. So coming over to combine, we can combine it into one route, two routes, probably one. New route label, we'll just make it a test. And we'll just combine these two routes, just as an example, a little test here. Okay, I'm going to leave the publications as all of them selected. I'm just going to go with a 2-column route book and create another solution label for myself.
So you will need to make the changes every day, or could you preset it for, if you know you're going to have a substitute for like the next 3 days, can you preset it for the next 3 days, or you'll need to make the changes every day?
Right, so I believe there is a section that we're going to get into where you can go ahead and reassign based on a range, like you're saying. So you can go ahead and create a combined route for, I don't know, 2-3 days, or however many you need to. I believe we're going to get into that. Let's go ahead and combine this route, see what we're looking at here. Again, our reporting preferences. Stick with that guy. Okay, there's our scenario. But again, the functionality of this tool is really just in an emergency situation, not really for covering multiple days, kind of just getting them in and out the door as quickly as possible. All right, so it's taken a little bit longer than I'd like it to for this combination, but I think you should get the picture. I mean, we just took those two routes, combined them into one, set our preference for whoever's delivering that those papers. Once this gets approved, we can pull our reports, get the report, and assign the route to whoever we need to, so they get compensated for it. So this is a cool little function if you need to, like I said, get those carriers in and out to cover their routes. Okay, so that's dispatching. Geocoding, we're going to skip over that for today's training session, maybe revisit it at another point. But I want to come down to the reassignments tab here. So this is where you would go. We had that question earlier, if you can make a 60-40 split rather than just the 50-50. This is where you can go if you have the time to go ahead and do that. So what we can do is go ahead and select our route that we want to work with. Let's say for this example, we want to work with this route. So in our data field, it brought down all the accounts that are on this selected route. Right, we can see the sequence of it. You've got an address information here, product by type, home delivery it looks like at this point, the account number we're dealing with, customer or company name, and obviously the route that we're looking at. Get it in the sequence order, because right now we can see that it's all sort of jumbled up at the moment. We'll just go ahead and click the header, which should put it in our sequence for us, and our addresses are all in line here. Now it's just easier to work with. Okay. So now we can come in, and based on our need, we can move whole street addresses, or we can move one or two. Most likely it's going to be you're moving a whole street address to another route to be covered for the day. But you can see all the data that we've populated here. If we want to select everything and move it over to a different route, we can go ahead and do that by selecting or unselecting all. You can see here in the sort column, all the boxes have been checked for all of our data here. Then we can update our route. Maybe not the most efficient way we want to do it, but we can do it that way if we wanted to. So let's just say in this example, we wanted to move West Market Street to a different route. Just for the day, we can do that. I'm going to go ahead and select all of Market Street, West Market Street, and East. Why not? Come down to Update Route. And now we can select the route that we want to move 21 West Market Street and 124 East Market Street onto. Right, so we're moving it away from this guy and putting it on somebody else. So if we're happy with that, we can go ahead and click Confirm. And what should happen, and you can kind of see over here, was successful. Market Street should be gone off of our list. Right, so now moved it from this guy to the other guy, or other route, sorry. And now to get the report, we can come back over, go to our dispatching. And at this point, we could come over, click recreate my routes, find the route that we selected in here, and generate whatever report that we need. And when they get their report, they open it up, they should be seeing West Market Street and that East Market Street that we moved over for the day. Okay, so reassignments, instead of moving, having Dart and the program split the route up however we need to, we would actually go in and move the different addresses that we want to be moved ourselves. A little more time consuming. That's why I was saying, you know, if you need it quick, go to that dispatching option. But if you have the time and you want to sit down and really go through meticulous by address and account, you can go ahead and do that as well. And this would be the place to do that, the reassignment tab. Okay. So overrides, moving on to that. This is where we're going to go over and we can permanently move addresses from one route to another. Okay, this is going in and basically telling the system, you know, it's on this one route, but it really should be on another. And we can go ahead and create that override so the accounts and the addresses now show up on the route that we want. Okay, in order to do that, what we're going to do is come over to the WAD, select the work area design that we want to work with. Delivery type, we can go all, product all, just so we can go in and hopefully pull some data down in here. Okay. So we can show you what we're working with here. These are the existing overrides for plant 3000 based on our parameters that we set up there. So we can see that Suffolk Court, a little bit of address information there. Work area design route that it thinks it should, that Dart thinks that it should be placed on, and the override route that it is actually placed on. So instead of being on WC 3000 route, it's on route 02207 000. Okay. If we want to go ahead and change the route, we can do that by selecting what we want to work with and coming down to the bottom here and clicking change route. Okay. This should allow us to go ahead and change the route that it's currently on to whichever route that we want to now replace it with. So we can go ahead and select that. We can confirm. And now we got a little bit of it was created successfully. And now if we come over and look up at the top at Suffolk Court, we should see that it's in the new route that we selected. Okay, we can also go ahead and delete it if we want to. Say that we don't need this override anymore. Again, select the address of the account that you want to work with, and we can just come down to delete override. It'll ask us if we want, if we're sure. We can confirm that. Okay. And now the override is gone. All right. Downloading the data, we'll just basically put this into an Excel form. But basically, if we had a whole bunch of overrides, we can go in and instead of scrolling around and checking out the information we want to work with, maybe it's easier to put it in an Excel sheet. So clicking download data will do that. Since it's only 3, you'll see address, zip, building, all this information in the headers, and then the data coming down with it. Okay, to add an override ourselves, to come over at the top here and click Add Overrides. And here we can go ahead and select an address that we want to work with to create our overrides. Okay. So we can start doing that. I'll see if I can use my example from our route viewer. Let's see. Clothier Street. Zip code 19320. Go ahead and search, see what comes back. All right. Now you can see we just did basic search on our address, and it came over with our override candidates. This is the address that we can now override with. And you can see you could get pretty specific with it. I'm going in the house, typing in your house, you could choose east, north, southwest. You saw the drop down, or you could start typing out the street name, street there. Okay, and searching. All right, again, we're going to click the address that we want to work on and select Add Override. Okay. So at this point, we can choose the route that we want to override that route with. So we can see right now, 816-7000 is the route that it's currently on. And now we can change it to whatever route we want it to be. So let's go up. And you can also see that we have the option to choose between address, apartment, floor, or building. Each kind of has its own different attributes. If we select address, this is going to move every account within this address to this new route. Right, so we can go ahead and do that. If we want to drill it down even farther, we could say every apartment within that address will be moved to the new route. Floor, if there's a designated floor space over here, all the floors will be moved to the new route. Same with the building. So depending on how we wanted to move and enter in that override, we would select that here. For the most part, I'm just going to leave it as address. Now every account within this address is going to be moved. I'm going to confirm it. Okay, says it was successful. And now we should see it over here in our existing overrides section. Okay. Perhaps we get a bunch of overrides. We have a bunch of routes that we want to move over permanently to a different one. We do have the option of uploading batches of overrides. And in which case we can create and we can have an Excel, basically an Excel sheet that we're going to save as a CSV file. Pretty important for the upload. And upload a whole bunch of batches if we didn't want to go through each address one by one. Save us a little bit of time. Okay. All right. Somebody had a question. I don't know if they can ask it with the echo going on.
I did. Sorry about that. A lot of feedback. I guess this is probably a question for Tony more than anyone. This does not come back and rewrite the AS400 directory, does it?
It does not, Paul. And this will take, you'll utilize this after we move over to the work area design, meaning once you're up and live and converted, we will be able to consolidate your routes by drop point and add zone in Genesis. And then all you'll have to do is maintain routing within the work area design. This is a part of that that allows you to make simple exceptions to it.
Okay, it just sounds like it's going to replace directory changes, and that's okay. That's a good thing.
Yep.
Okay.
And nothing, just as a broad theme, Paul, nothing within Dart will change Genesis.
Yeah, that's what I figured. I just kind of wanted to confirm that. Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Okay. So again, if we had multiple overrides that we want to upload, we can do that quick. By coming over to the override section, again, picking our work area design that we want to work with. And now we can go, again, picking our priorities, which will show you the fields that you have to include within your, picking the priority and picking like the address. That screen before where we picked our route, and we can pick it by, do we want to move all the accounts on by address, by floor, building, or apartment. We can select our priority here, which in turn will show us the information that we have to include in our CSV file for upload. Okay, so we can see here, we get a little drop-down message, page for uploading override files in CSV format. So in the field, the column should be zip code, product, client, the route, delivery type, so on and so forth. These codes are mandatory. We want to see a little example of that so we know what we're dealing with here. We have an option to do that over in sample upload file. We could go ahead and click that, open it up. Move it over from a different screen that we're working on. Now we can go in and we can actually use this sample upload file to put in our information, right? So we could go ahead, fill in our information, save it. Working with CSV files, I would save it as just an Excel file and a CSV, so you have two copies that you can work with, just because CSVs are finicky. So kind of just a little backup for yourself. But once you put in your information, save it as a CSV, we can come over, go ahead and browse our computer for the changes and upload those changes. All right, and once we have, it's going to pop up saying that it's successful. And at that point, we can come back into our override section. Pick that work area design again. Search. And all the information, if it was successful, should populate down here, just like these 4 accounts. Okay, it's a lot quicker than going in and going into add overrides one by one. It just depends on your needs at the time. Okay. There are no questions about overrides. We did touch on the route viewer before, where you can go in and check out a map view of the routes. It'll populate different dots for the addresses, where you can check out how the routes are set up and how they look. The next thing I want to show you guys is the sequencing of the routes. First, we can go into legacy sequencing. There are 2 options for sequencing. Used to be only one, used to be just this legacy excuse me, this legacy sequencing option. But now there's a separate sequencing. Pretty much the same functions with a little bit of different capabilities. But to show you an example, we're going to go work with our active work area design. Now this is a carrier that comes in and says, hey, my route's all screwed up. It's not how I want it to look. They do have the option of sequencing the route themselves, which we'll get into when we look at the DSP mobile and portal part of the presentation. But if they come in saying, hey, can you do this for me, and you got the time, you can go ahead and sequence their route for them. And maybe this is good time to note that when we do get closer to go live and we print out the reports for them, they can go in, check out their sequencing, and if there's any errors, they can make notes. I know that we're bringing over their sequencing that they have already over into Dart. But, just to double check, make sure everything's lined up correctly, we can print out the reports for them, tell them, hey, make any changes you want on this paper, give it back, and we can go ahead and sequence the route just, to catch those little mistakes if they come through. But anyway, we'll go to sequencing. We got our work area design and the route that we want to work with. And now we should see all the addresses on their route in their order, the sequence order that they're in already. Okay, if we scroll down, see that they have a bunch of different, basically a lot of accounts that they're delivering here. So if we want to move anything around, what we would do is, let's say we want to move, this one looks good, this High Street down. So they're delivering 21 West Market and then 6 West Market. Right now they're delivering West Market, then South High, then back to West Market, and South High again. So this will come down, click on South High, basically click and drag. Right, so I've selected it, drag it down to that third spot that I want it to be in. And there we are. You can see this guy, 31. We'll probably want them delivering 31 before 32, 35, and so on and so forth. You can also move whole streets if you wanted to. Say, for example, we want to move all of South High. You can select 5 down to 8. Just hold Shift and click. Then we can click and drag down to wherever we want to place it. Or if it's way down here that we want to move the addresses to, we can come over, select our addresses, click and drag over to this little spot holder over here. Now, as you probably saw, when I scroll down, the placeholder will follow me. And now I can insert this segment wherever I want to in here. Let's say we want to put it between Sharpless and Spring. I can go ahead and do that. And now all of South High Street has been moved to where I want it to be so it can optimize itself for me. So if I'm happy with those changes, I could come over here, click Save Changes. I'll be prompted for what is the reason for me performing the sequencing. Most of the time, it's probably going to be the DSP requested it. So I'm going to leave that selected. You know, you'll be prompted to pick your selection. Again, it's probably going to be DSP. Then you can go ahead and save your changes. Okay, so our changes are successful. And
Is this the same process the contractor would go through?
Yeah, it's very similar, if not the exact same as this. And I'll show you guys how to do that. But you know, you're presented with a list of your addresses here. You can click and drag and place it depending on your needs. Okay. So now tomorrow's reports will be in the sequence order that they want. You can also go in and recreate the report if they wanted it for today. So that's legacy sequencing. Sequences come in here. Same kind of function. You're moving around addresses to get it in the sequence order that the carrier wants it to be in. But now we have a few more options. Okay. So again, just like before, we're going to select our work area design. Now in this case, we can see that this one is highlighted. That just means it's the active work area design that we're dealing with. So we'll select it. We'll select our route again that we want to work with. Now, just as before, we can see a list of our addresses. Okay. And just like before, we can click and drag that we want to move 179 down after Ben Franklin Highway. Just click and drag. Okay. This time it doesn't have that little placeholder off on the side. So when you click, I'll say we want to move Richards Avenue, you can scroll down with your mouse and have it clicked at the same time if you need to scroll down further. Okay. So now, unlike sequencing, we have a few options here on the side, as you can see, as well as this optimize button on top. If we want to go ahead and optimize it the way Dart thinks that the route should be delivered by, quickest time, distance, all of that fun stuff, we can go ahead and click optimize, which will sequence the route how Dart thinks it should be sequenced. All right. If we want to come over here, we'll see that we've got a few other options. We can undo the optimization. We can restore, start over, view on a map, download as CSV, upload as CSV, or basically save all our changes. Okay. Again, just I'll touch on this. The reverse button basically just flips the sequence. I'll go ahead and click it. Now, what was at the very bottom, we can see up here, and now we're going down by sequence. Now we're going up by sequence. Okay. If we wanted to start over, we can reset any changes that we've made if we've made a mistake. Starting over will basically just erase everything that we've done, start from the very beginning. View on the map. If we want to check out how this route looks as sequenced right now, we can click View on Map. And now top right, what should have popped open is a little Google Maps view that we can scroll in, check out, how the route looks. See, it's a little bit jumbled up with these numbers, but that's the sequence order that it's in. So we could come over, try to find one, but you can see we got 4 all the way down here because we've moved it, just doing my examples. But you can kind of get a better look out of how this route is sequenced. Okay. Downloading as CSV. This is for if you do a bunch of sequencing and you want to basically save a copy for yourself. So if you've done sequencing or the carrier's done sequencing and you just want to make sure like, hey, someone could go in there and if they play around with it and mess it all up, it's just going to cause a whole bunch of problems. So you can go in every once in a while and download this route as a CSV, saving a copy. That way, if you have done a bunch of work and the carrier comes in and says, I don't know, I was trying to play around with the sequencing and I hit optimize and it totally undid all my changes that I've done. Everything is screwed up. Help. You've got your downloaded CSV file of this route. You can quickly upload the CSV, save the changes, and whatever changes that you've downloaded and saved, that'll be the new sequence. Okay. And again, just good practice with CSV files, saving it as a regular Excel file, just so you have a backup copy.
Hey, Theron, it's Chris. I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
We also added this new button on the top where it says restore sequences. So you don't have to worry about saving anything. If you just go to the restore button, it'll give you the option to go back, anywhere within 2 weeks to pick the sequencing that was for that particular day. So you don't have to worry about saving anything anymore. You can just go right to that restore button and it'll put it back to the last time that it was, good for them.
Perfect. Okay. So you also have that button as well to revert back to any changes that might have been made. But if we're happy and we've done our work in the resequencing, we're happy with it, we could come over and save the sequences to save any of the changes. It's going to ask where we want to save it. We can either save it to the work area design that we selected up here, or we could just save it to our computer, one of a workspace, one or the other. But if we wanted to make it active, we'll keep it in the selected work area design. Again, we have a reason code, most likely DSP requested. So I'm going to leave that. Once we've got those two parameters selected, we can go ahead and click Save. And now, I don't know if you can see, but we've got a little Save Success popped up over on the side. And our View on Map. I don't know if you saw that as well, but the numbers changed around a little bit based on the changes that we've put in. Now, we can see that it's in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in order, and we're good to go. We also have an option of working in segments. This is going to show the street segment, whereas before we were working with addresses. All right. So the way this is just laid out is the street segment ID is in bold up at the top. Below the segment ID, you'll see the address and the high and low range of the street. So the low for Tollgate Road is 43, high range is going to be 52. And again, the way you can move these around these segments is clicking and dragging. We can view the sequence. Which should go in and show us that, okay, we've got 43. If there were multiple, obviously there'd be more down here. That range would be different, but it looks like we only have 2 accounts on Tollgate Road. Based on your needs, you can bring back the data however you want to, either by house number, odd first, even first. We can also view this segment on a map. Scrolling in. Now we can see 43 and 53, but this is the segment that we're working with on Tollgate Road. Okay, so if we wanted to do any changes within this segment itself, click and drag. Click OK. And then if we made any changes in here, again, saving our sequence, we'll save any changes that we've just made. Okay, so I think this is pretty cool kind of tool to use. It's really easy to move around addresses based on your needs or based on the carrier's needs. So I think this is a pretty great tool to use. And again, the carriers can make these changes if they need to on their own. Are there any questions about the sequencing? not, keep on moving down to messages. Start with the route book messaging. This is to enter any messages that you may have for the plant or carriers, specific carriers, that will show up in their route books when they print it out every morning. It should show up at the top under messages. So in order to put that in, you can enter it in by plant. So the whole plant, all the routes within the plant will get this message in their route book. Or you could enter it in by route. So only specific routes can see the message. Okay. So in order to do that, we'll come down to, we'll do plants. So you can see what that looks like. We can hit add, type in our message here. We'll just say, test message. We could pick our start and end date, starting today. We can say, all right, we want to make it for, so they can see it for a week. Click OK. And now all the routes within our plant will see our test message that we've created today, all the way until the 21st. Can see that it's active. We can edit the message if we want to in any way, or we can deactivate it a little early. So this is a test message that I put in yesterday. I'll just go ahead, click deactivate. It'll pop up if we're sure we want to deactivate the test message. Yes. And now it's gone. Route notes works the same way, although this time we're going to go in and select the specific routes that we want the message to appear on. Okay, so if one route had a bunch of missed deliveries to a certain address, we could type in here, deliver to Clothier Street, just so it reminds them, hey, you know, this has been missed a few times, make sure that we deliver to this address. Pick the route that we want it to appear on, and again, the start and end date of that message. Click OK. And now this route number will see that they need to deliver to this Clothier Street address. It'll appear on top of their route book, and they will get the message. Again, this is active. We can edit or deactivate however we need. Okay. So that's how to get the message across to in the route books and the paperwork that they get. If you remember going back to the Dart home screen, we also have this messages section here. In order to go in and update the portal news messaging, we can start by just clicking this new messages button. Which will take us to this option. You can also get there by clicking the hamburger menu, coming down to route management, messaging, and this is where we are, portal news and messaging. Okay, this is only messaging that will show up in this portal, as well as the DSP portal. So when they log in, they can see any messages that they have. It'll populate there. Okay. Works, I'm sure you can figure this one out. But the notes, we've got an active start date. You can pick the date that you want it to expire on. Pick a title. You can see that if we want it to just be in our Dart portal, we can choose that, or if we just want it in the DSP portal, so the carriers can see it, we can click that, or both. Just depends on how you want them to see the message or who wants to see the message. And then we can start typing in our message here. And you can see we have some formatting options up at the top. Then we'll go ahead and save our changes. Okay, scrolling over at the top here. See that these are grayed out for us. Not able to work with those, so releasing the notes by plant, Dart, or the DSP portal is what you're able to work with. To see past messages, it would be down here. But that's quick with messaging. Once you've entered that in and you've selected DSP portal, your message will populate down here. So whenever you log in, you can see that you have a few messages ready to go. Okay, message is pretty straightforward. The last thing in route management I want to touch on just briefly is this move section here. Now, this move section, pretty much, you can do a lot of damage with this. All right. So it's suggested that you don't make moves yourself. Reach out to Tony or myself, and then we can reach out to whoever we need to make the moves for you. But basically, this isn't used too often. It's mostly for territory, I don't know, consolidation or changes that need to be made between plants. So if you only have the option of looking at one plant, moves really doesn't impact you at all. If you can look at different plants, you'll be able to see different plant menus. But basically, you're moving zip code responsibilities from one plant to another. Right, and if any of these changes, if those changes get made, that obviously moves compensation, responsibility, paperwork, and could create a whole bunch of different problems. So I've been on a call with Jason because I'm not super familiar with the moves myself, but when we were going over it and discussing it, it's kind of just good practice to not make any of these changes yourself, to let somebody else know. And then if we can make the changes, we will, or we'll get in touch with somebody who does make those changes. But for the most part, I would advise, don't even worry about this moves option. Okay. But I did want to touch on it just so we've got it a little bit covered. And when you go in and start playing around, you don't really touch moves at all. Okay. So that's the route management piece. Next, I'm going to go into the DSP portal and DSP mobile apps.
Hey, Theron,
but before
you talked about moving routes between plants and overrides, but what about moving like consolidating a route within a depot? We have split a route between 2 carriers or 3 carriers. I mean, it's like everyday stuff.
Yeah, so with that, I believe the dispatching would be what you're looking for.
I'm talking about permanent, like we're eliminating a route number, we're going to eliminate a carrier.
So permanent moves.
Hey, Theron, it's Ethan. Do you mind if I jump in?
Yeah, sure.
Excellent. So the question that you just took was in relation to doing a route structure change and a planned one, right? You're looking at the structure of a route and you're deciding if it would be better off to move a couple of streets from one route to another or reconstructing a route in general. What you just showed, the scenario of moving, is referring to when you have a subscriber within your footprint and you know that it's outside of your boundaries and you know it might be belonging to a distributor nearby or the next distribution center nearby. And so you're bringing awareness to the fact that this subscriber is active and are expecting a paper, but you're not the center that delivers it. And so if you have a subscriber that falls within your footprint and you know it's not yours, that's where we would move it from one center to another. And that could be done at the subscriber level or at the zip code level. If you decide that you were going to service an entire zip code from another distribution center, this is where you would move those subscribers from one center to another. And that could happen at a one account or a zip code level or a street level. And so Theron was giving you an example. If you see an example of that, we have the power to move it from one place to another, from a depot to a depot.
Again, my question is, hypothetically, we have 4 routes, and due to declining volumes, we're going to move down to 3 routes. How do we split the customers up on that 4th route that we're going to get rid of?
I see. Thank you. And so that is not part of today's training. However, when we get to the advanced routing and route structure changes, we will get into how to plan and how to change and how to split routes. But this particular section that Theron is showing is just for the heat of the moment. It's not anticipated. It was 1 in the morning. Guaranteed delivery time is 4 a.m. and a carrier just told you he wasn't coming in. And so now we're trying to lock.
Okay. Any other questions before we move on to the DSP mobile portal? Not, we'll go ahead and take a look at that. So you can access these links, coming down to links. Don't worry about this information. What you'll only be seeing is the DSP portal and mobile. I'm in the demo plan, so I can see a whole bunch of other options. So we can start with the DSP portal, which I have opened up already. So this is somewhere, and I think when I come down on at the end of this month, I'll be helping the carriers set up their own accounts so that they can go in and start looking around at this information. So what you can do if you get a new carrier coming in, they've got to create their account. In order to do that, you come to the portal. What I'll be walking them through is creating their account, basically creating a username, password for themselves, putting in their DSP ID number, company name, which I believe should be Rochester. Once we get in there, it'll populate itself. Same with group name. The route number. Now, if they're responsible for multiple routes, you only need to enter one. I think when we were in Phoenix, one of the carriers entered in all their routes that they were responsible for here, and it caused some problems granting them access. So you only need one. The email address for the carrier, and then some basic just security questions. Okay, they can also come in here if they've forgotten their password or username. Enter it in here. Basic stuff, just creating an account for themselves. I will go ahead and log in. Just generic username, password, just for the test. can log in. And this is what they'll see when they log into their portal. It'll say, welcome, carrier's name. In this case, it's Peter Walsh. It gives a list of their contracted routes that they're responsible for. Routes delegated to you. Carriers have the option of, delegating routes if they have, if they know they're going to be out and they talk with another carrier and say, hey, I'm going to be out. Do you want to take my route? They can go ahead and delegate it. Once they move those routes, it'll populate down here the routes that they're going to be covering. Gives a little bit of a heads up on any documents that they may need to sign. Any news for the day, alternate delivery days, non-published delivery, late truck, special delivery. This should look just like our little ribbon up top on the Dart home screen menu. Up here. But they're seeing it in the news section. They can see complaints, their new starts and restarts, any product or address changes, any memos they may have, any stops for that day will be listed here. And here you can see the test message that we put in earlier in the messages section. This is where it's going to appear for them in their DSP portal. Okay, and this is the home screen. Now, if they do have documents that need to be signed, they'll come over to this Documents tab up top, click on Documents to sign, which they will find down here. They'll be able to click on and sign any documents that may be needed, maybe recontracting, whatnot. DSP fax here, if they have a commercial vehicle, say yes. You have income source outside of PCF, just basic questions, if they yes or no when they're setting up their account. Any completed documents that they have signed already would be found here, giving a little recap of it. Come into services. This is where they have the option of resequencing the route themselves. I think we had a question on that earlier, if the carriers are able to do it. This is where they would come to do that. Services, resequence. Okay. Should look pretty familiar. All they need to do is select the route that they want to work with. And now, just like before what we saw, we can go ahead and the carriers can move the routes themselves. Again, clicking and dragging will move the route, or they can move multiple different streets, Lilac Road. Let's say we want these guys to be right here, this group, all together. Okay, they don't have as many options as we do back in our sequencing section. So they don't have the option of really going and seeing a map view of it. But they can come in, save their changes, or cancel any sequencing changes that they've made and start over. Also a refresh. And they can optimize their sequences based on how Dart thinks that their route should be optimized. Okay, so if they're happy, they can come in and save. If you like to save, they can save and create the report, or we'll just go ahead and click Save Only in this example. So successful. Now all the lilac roads that we just moved together are in the sequence order that we're happy with. Okay. Under services, they can also go into draw recap, in which case they would select the route that they want to look at. Delivery day, go with today. And now we can check out the draw per product and delivery type. We can see that for the FJ product, we had 62 papers, IT, we had 17, and so on and so forth. Okay, if they wanted to print out their reports, they can do that here. Start by mail and recaps. This is where they can come in and you can see we've got their complaints, any hot complaints. Scrolling down, repeats, any new starts or restarts, product changes and address changes, any memos, any stops. This is where they can come in and get that information for themselves. So again, they need to fill out the date. Starting point is going to be the distribution center, the route that they want to look at. All mail types would fill in all the populations down here, or they can come in and just say, hey, you know, I just want to look at my complaints. You can do that here, or I just want to look at my new starts and restarts. You can select that here as well. Now we'll scroll down. We can see that there are 2 new restarts here. Got the route, account numbers, their names, the customer name, the product, the frequency, and the address. They also have an option of looking at it in a map view. You can see all this route had 2 new starts. New starts are in this green, represented by a green pin in the legend here. And if you hover over the green pins, you can see the new start addresses. Okay. But you can come in and they selected that one. Okay, great. Got their paperwork. They can move on to the different routes that they have. Coming down to production reports. This is where they can come in, pick their route, their selected day. We'll go for today. And this is where they can come in and print out their reports themselves. You can see that this carrier for this route, they can print out their active subs list in sequence order, their route carrier mail report, 2-column route book. Just by clicking on the route book, they'll be prompted to open or save. They can come in and get their reports. Again, plant notes. There's our test message that we got, that we sent out earlier. And they can get their reports for the day. All right, then they can get their active subs and route carrier mails well. Works just the same. And they would do that for each route that they're responsible for. Okay. They also have the option of printing their statement. Oh, that doesn't look good, does it? Try it one more time. Okay, there we go. So they can print out their compensation report. What they would do is pick their date range. See, they can go back quite a ways, back into March of last year. Print out their statement or export it to a PDF so they have a copy of it themselves. Contact information, right? Just gives them an option to, if they have any comments, they can get a hold of PCF, entering in a message. Pretty straightforward. The My Account section, they can just come in and change their settings. Got their email. They can change their password. They can change if they want to send daily reports. Email notification with recovery complaints. Language settings. They can also change their security questions when they're prompted to log in. And here's where they can delegate their routes. Right, so what they would need is the DSP ID, first name, last name, city, state, and zip. For existing DSP, external helper. They can enter in their start date and end date for the delegation, the route that they want to delegate, their information here. And they can view a history of the delegation. See, we have some notes on the side. Delegated person cannot make the route or sequencing changes. Can't view your documents, your own documents. It looks like you could stage a future delegation if you needed to. You can see in the past that they have delegated this route to the test first name, test last name, the dates that were delegated to. Looks like there's a month. You can redelegate, you can just remove it, but basically it's a history of the delegations that you had in the past. Okay, there's more. You've got the terms, policy agreements, or you can log out. Okay, so again, when we come out at the end of the month, this is what I'll be helping them set up so they can go in and check out what they're going to be looking at here. Okay, the other tool that they have is the DSP Mobile that they can download to their phone or to a tablet, however they use, if they use one or the other to make their deliveries. Since it's going to be on a phone, I kind of formatted the window here so it kind of looks like a phone screen and kind of gives you the impression of what they're going to be looking at here. So again, we're going to sign them up. Basically, again, creating your username, password, linking your account. When they sign in, this is what they're going to be looking at here. Okay, got a home screen. They can view their news, mail map, their draw recaps, sort of tracking information that we'll get into. They could come in, print out their production reports, any directions. Again, they have a contact us page, legal, and a sign out option. Starting at the top, going into news, should look like this. See what it looks like here. You can see that we got alternate delivery days and our activities. Matches up with what we're seeing here nicely. We'll go back. Mail grid. Okay, here we can see our complaints, hot complaints. Again, what we would have to do is go ahead and select the route that we're trying to look at here, or we could select all the routes. Why don't we go ahead and try that? We can set a notification for ourselves about any piece of information here. Our mail types, again, I've set it at all so we can take a look at everything. But if you just wanted to see your complaints, you can do that here. And scrolling down, obviously for this route, we just saw that we only have these two new starts and restarts. Okay, but if there were more information, it would populate down here. If you wanted to confirm these deliveries, you can do so here. Or you can view the travel path to get to this new start, or navigation as a whole. Why don't we click on that? Directions request failed, did not found. Okay, we'll close out for right now. Mail map. Basically giving us a map view of the routes that we want to look at. Again, we have this legend sign here, and those two due starts. Okay, but what you're kind of getting the idea of is this portal reflects, or this mobile reflects this portal. Right, you should be kind of making that connection there. Draw recaps. Again, select your route. Select your day. You can see by product the draw that you're looking at. We click on complete my route. You have an option, the carriers have an option of kind of a monitoring thing. They can turn on, I think it kind of acts like a location on your phone, location settings on your phone, or you could say, all right, I'm working on this route. You can click on I'm starting. And Dart has that option of how long it thinks that the route should take to deliver. We could click I'm starting. It'll go through, and so when you start your route, click that button, start your route. Once you're finished, completed, takes that time that you spent delivering that route compared to the time that Dart thinks that the route should be delivered. And it's pretty much a monitoring purpose for you. So you can check out how long the routes are taking. And I'm looking at the time coming up, passing a little bit the time that we're set for. So I'll run through these pretty quick, but you're kind of getting a good idea of what you're looking at here as far as it looks similar. But again, another tracking device for yourself so you can monitor how long the routes are taking compared to how long Dart thinks it should be taking. In the reports section, obviously they could come in and print out their production reports so they have it right on their phone or tablet, however they're using to deliver. Works the same way, you're picking your route and you're picking your day. Now you're able to click and print, click and save the report to your phone or tablet so you can make your deliveries off of that. Give your directions list as well, where you can see based on the day, your route. If you want to see any access codes on your reports, you can do that. Right now, it just looks like we've got delivery instruction, address instruction, delivery instruction, customer full name, and the report showing up in white. This is just your basically your reporting preferences. This is how it's going to be displayed. If you wanted to see the city and zip code in your report, you can click that. Business name if you want, account number if you want. Basically, this is your preferences. Once you're finished, you click launch, and your preferences would be applied. Coverable directions. Again, you're starting from your distribution center. Your route here. Go ahead and click launch. No recovery complaints found. We didn't have any recovery complaints. But if you did, you can check out where the complaints are routed to, or what complaints are on what route. Active list showing your active subscribers. Again, you can see the report in different ways. You can see their address. Basically, everything that's checked off, you'll be able to see in your report. Select your route. Hit launch. And here you go. You got your turn-by-turn, or not turn-by-turn rather, but your addresses. It's on the right-hand side of the road. IT, that's the product. Subscriber. Once you've delivered to this guy, we can click confirm. See here, there's a little bit of message here, double bag this guy's delivery here on 195 Applebrook Road on the left. We can confirm when we've done that and continue on down for this route. Okay, we'll click on this active list. Again, select your route, preferences, launch. And again, just a list of your customer's name, your product, address. This time it doesn't, you do get a side of the road arrow. But just another way so you can go ahead and navigate and confirm. And again, you got the contact us, legal, and sign out. But at the end of the month when we come out, this is what I'm going to be helping set up for the carriers so they can go in and get a look at what they're doing here. And now it's coming up to the end of the meeting time that we have scheduled. I was hoping to get in some questions if you guys have. Apologize for kind of skimming through this a little bit, but I hope that you did notice that this mobile looks a lot like the portal. Are there any questions as we're wrapping up here? Anything you want me to show you again? Feeling pretty good. Alrighty. Well, that touches on all the points that I wanted to cover today with today's meeting. I don't think we have a meeting scheduled for next week, but if we feel the need and want to cover other options, we can go ahead and do that. Tony, I'll talk to you about that when you come in today, I guess, and we can go from there. Okay.
Thanks, Aaron.
Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you guys, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, thank you.